Hey, we're going to take a fun guy, and I'm finally back, and we're going to finish off our Bloodthirster. So for this, we're going to focus on the accessories, which are his axe, skulls, and whatever the metallic details are. So for this, we're going to start with the axe. So for the axe, we're going to start off with the base coat of Ironbreaker. So this is a layer paint, so you will need a couple of thin coats, but don't worry, like 2 to 3, but don't worry, it should be nice and easy. Fine. We don't need much water, little to none, because we're gonna paint this in silver anyway. And if you add too much water to a metallic paint, it loses that metallic effect. Basically, all we're doing is starting to base coat all the details of the axe that are supposed to be silver. Let me grab some more Ironbreaker. Keep this right here. Grab a big dollop right here. Basically, what we're going to do is going to focus all over where there's metal. So for right here, for silver parts such as right here, we are going to paint some of these parts brass or bronze because that's corn. But don't worry, we'll get to that. Just take your time for right now and just paint all the silver details. And the good news is we don't really need to worry about much silver because corn demons like a Bloodthirster actually preferably have bronze or copper as their metallic tones. There's not really much else to have silver other than the axe blade, but of course that would be this part of the axe right here, which is the pull. And just see where you see all the exposed bits of metal on the axe pole. You're just going to base coat with this. You don't need to paint the pommel, but we're going to paint the pommel just a little bit on this side right here. Alright, and I'll be right back when all the silver is base coated. Alright, now with the silver now dry, before I forget, we're also going to focus on the bronze details. So for the bronze, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take a nice even base coat of Balthazar Gold. So check out the Balthazar Gold like so. We don't need, we are going to need quite a bit of this because, like I said, corn demons aren't really have silver for metallics. They mostly just have bronze or copper, or some silver, but Take some Balthazar Gold, put it on our palette like so. What we're going to do is going to start base coating all the metal parts that we want to be bronze. So for here, we're going to go with the pommel, as well as the coronate symbol right here. Just continue on the end of the staff like so, or the end of the shaft of the axe. You could also paint this on the other parts if you wish, but don't worry, we're going to focus on all the other parts that are basically just bronze. Start base coating. And also for the bronze detail, we're also going to focus on his belt, like right here, specifically around his belly, like right here. I'm going to base coat this with Balthazar Gold and just continue. Alright, I'll get back when all the copper detail is done. Alright, now, with our bronze/copper details done, or base coated, the reason why I say /copper is because even though Balthazar Gold is a bronze, it's a perfect base coat for copper as well. And speaking of copper, we're going to paint in the copper parts of the miniature like so. So for this, we're going to take our copper color, we're going to use Fulgurite Copper. Now, Fulgurite Copper is basically a really, really bright copper that looks sort of like a gold color, but no, it is not a gold color. It is a copper. So what we're going to do is this. Check up our paint like so. Maybe a little runny, but fine. We'll just mix it in. So what we're going to do, just make sure we just spread this out just a little bit. Just make sure it's even. Okay. Now with the copper now pen mixed up. So what we're going to do, see where I painted the pommel earlier. Let me get the excess off. So what we're going to do with this part, we're going to base coat all over with Fulgurite Copper. or layer, I should say. And even though it may look gold, but trust me, it is not gold. It's just a very, very bright copper color. And also on the bottom part of the pommel right here. All right, and we're not going to paint too many details with this because we're going to use those for special. But of course, we're also going to paint the coronate symbol on his axe. So what we're going to do is going to paint it, just layer all over with Fulgurite copper. Just be very, very careful. And we're also going to do the other side, the coordinate symbol on his axe as well. All right, and that's the copper details now base coated. All right, now we're going to focus on the other black details, which I didn't do earlier because we were highlighting the skin. So for this, we're going to look on the straps all over his body. So for this, we're going to take Abaddon black. So take some Abaddon black like so, open it up, and basically we're going to put some on our palette. Or table, I should say, because this is already a messy table. So thin it down with a little bit of water, just a little bit. So what we're going to do is going to make sure, twist our brush so we have a fine tip on it like so, and we're basically going to focus all over the black details on which are the straps. So for right here. And also this could be a little difficult, and I know you can hardly see, but you know. Paint the straps. And as well as if you painted some other stuff with the metallics by accident, say like for right here on this hoof, we're also going to paint those as well. And as well as you forget to paint any other black details. And there's also straps on his leg. Don't worry too much, this one's actually just pierced into his skin. It is so graphic, but it's so awesome at the same time. Alright, now with all of our metallics base coated, now what we're going to do is going to start shading them. For this, we're going to start with Nuln Oil. For the Nuln Oil, we're going to go over the bronze and the silver. We are going to leave the copper alone because we're going to shade that a different color. Pick up the paint real good. So what we're going to do, take some Nuln Oil, put it on our table like so. Get a little dollop of this. So what we're going to do, make sure there's no excess. So basically what we're going to do is this. So if you look right here on the middle, like right here on his plate right here, shade all over with Nuln Oil, and it should go into the recesses really nicely, as you can see right here. See? So, and also we're going to go on the shaft of the weapon where the silver is as well. And as well as these panels like right here where we painted silver earlier. And also finally the silver right here, as well as the bronze. So what we're going to do, and also with this, we're also going to shade in the silver on the blade, of course. We will need a little more, just a little more. Perfect. So what we're going to do, focus on the all over the silver. Try not to hit the copper, but if you do, you can just fix that later. See, as we've done just right there, but don't worry, you can just shade over and just change the colors of it. All right, and that's the silver shaded. I almost forgot to say the bronze is also shaded. My apologies. So for the copper, we're not going to shade in the copper. For this, we're going to use Flesh Wash by RB Painter. So what we're going to do, take this Flesh Wash, check out the bottle like so. So basically what we're going to do is this. Take some Flesh Wash. We're going to squeeze a little bit on the table like so. So we don't need much because the copper is not much of a big detail. However, we do want to shade it down a little bit. Now again, even though this may look like gold, trust me, it is not gold whatsoever. It's just copper. So what we're going to do is this. Let me just get that. So what we're going to do is going to shade all over the copper. So shade all over this with the flesh shade. We mixed it with a little bit of water so that way it doesn't overpower it, but it still shades them very nicely. And as you can see, it's working. Also same for the pummel, like right here. And as you can see, it goes really cohesive with all the miniature. And also especially these spikes on his axe, like so. What we're going to do, just shade all over these with the Flesh Wash. All right, and that's the copper shaded. All right, now with the copper now shaded, we're now going to go back to Balthazar Gold and also just pick out some of the other details we might have missed and or mistakenly, not seen. So for right here, I'm talking about the skulls on his body. So what I mean by this is that if you also look, there's a symbol on his hair, like right here where the metallic is. So what we're going to do, paint that symbol in right now with Balthazar Gold, which is basically just this part right here. And while we're on that, we're also going to go with painting in the other the other bronze details, which would be on his horns. So if it's very subtle, but watch this. As you can see, like right here, there's a coronate symbol right here. You could leave the skull as like the black part or anything out of the horn. So basically what we're going to do is just going to highlight. It's just going to shade, do this. Just be extremely careful. And for these skulls, you can just paint them metallic and, just call it there. Usually I would paint him bone color, but then again, it wouldn't really make sense to have a bone on his horn or a skull for that matter, even though it is lore accurate. All right, and that's the skull, and that's the metal on his horns done. All right, and speaking of skulls, other than the ones on his horns, he also has a couple on his hair and hair right here. So we're going to go back and detail those right now. So for this, we're going to go back to Corax White. So take some Corax White. We are going to thin this down a little bit, so just to be sure. The paint is rather thick, so I'm just scooping it off camera because as you can see, it's quite thick. A little bit of water. All right, so what we're going to do with this part is basically we're going to look at all the bone details like the skulls. So for the skulls, which is right here, we have a couple on his ponytail, like right here, or his hair. So I'm going to show you where we base coat those. Now it may take a couple of thin coats, but don't worry, just take your time and it'll be really worth the effort. And while we're waiting for the skulls to dry, we are going to base coat the little lashing on his axe. So for this, we're going to take a light brown. We're basically just going to use Marnfang brown. So take some Marnfang brown, check out the pot like so. We're going to do right here, take some Marnfang brown, thin it down, not much. We're going to thin it down, and we're going to base coat all over where you see the lashing. Lashing as in the leather straps. So watch this. So if you look right here, there's a strap, like right here. We're going to base coat all of these with Marnfang brown. Just be careful not to hit any other parts of the miniature, but don't worry, you can go back and correct them later. And just take your time, and it'll be really be worth the effort. All right, now since we're moving on back to the skulls while the brown dries, we're going to apply a wash all over the skulls and just do like 1 to 2 coats. We're going to use Seraphim Sepia. Seraphim Sepia is basically just a sepia like bone-ish color. So basically all we're going to do is going to shade over those. Maybe once or twice. So what we're going to do, take some Seraphim Sepia. The lid doesn't want to stay open on this one. I always forget about that. Take some Seraphim Sepia and just put it on the table or palette like so. Not much, we just need a little bit. So what we're going to do, focus on the skulls, especially on the hair. Basically, we're going to shade all over these with the Seraphim Sepia. As you can see, it's shading them as well as leaving the bone color as white as possible as we left it, so that way they look like clean skulls. You can do them as dirty or as bright as you want. I'm just doing it like this so that way they have more of the skull bony color that I'm looking for. Alright, and that's the skull shaded. Alright, now with the skulls now done, we're basically going to focus on the leather strapping. So for this, we're going to do a wash of Agrax Earthshade. So Agrax Earthshade is basically a brown wash, which is used for typically for brown and stuff like that. However, Agrax Earthshade, like Nolan oil, can be applied over any color you wish. Take some Agrax Earthshade. We are going to just put some on the palette or the table, just a little bit, not much. So what we're going to do right here, leather strapping right here. Everywhere you see the straps, just shade with Agrax Earthshade. Alright, and that's the brown strapping shaded. Alright, now, for the first to last parts of the miniature, we're going to use Sycorax bronze, and we're going to highlight all the bronze details. We're going to just to make them a little more sharp. Check out the paint like so. Now, Sycorax bronze is a really, really bright bronze to a silver point, so we are going to have to mix this up just a little bit, not much. So what we're going to do is this. So if you look at the details on the bronze, especially on the skull pattern right here, just paint over the edges so that way it makes them shine. See? It's a little subtle, but that's exactly what we're looking for. And as well for the Sycorax bronze, we're also going to use this on this belt plate, like right here. Basically what we're going to do is this, like right here. See where all these edges are? We're just going to highlight all over these with Sycorax bronze. And you can also flick the brush across to make it more like bronze, if you wish. Alright, the last detail we're going to do for the metallics are on the body of the actual Bloodthirster. We're basically going to highlight the axe. So basically, we're going to do a simple highlight of Stormhost Silver. So Stormhost Silver is the brightest silver. So basically all we're going to do, take some Stormhost Silver, put it on our palette like so. We don't need much, but we are going to need a good amount of this. I'll show you why. So for this, you're going to have to focus on all the sharper details that are silver. So watch this. See like how this thing has like a little crack right here? All you're going to do, just highlight with Stormhost Silver, and that's it. As well as the edges of silver all over the miniature. Now, you can also, and I'm also going to do this on the spikes as well on his axe. We're going to do an all over layer just to make him a little more brighter. Not sharper per se, but you know. Alright, and with our axe highlighted and sharp, and now we have all our metallic details done, which means we completed the full Bloodthirster now. So, for right now, at first we started with the wings and added the symbols, which was perfect with the black details. And now for part 2, we worked on the skin as well as the other organic details. And for part 3, which is the finale, we've mostly focused on the metallics as well as other details. So, this is how you paint a Bloodthirster up to Battle Ready or Parade Ready standard if you wish. You can also do this for the 2-armed version of the Bloodthirster with 2 different axes, and as well as Scarbrand if you wish. So, I really hope you enjoyed watching this 3-part video on how to paint a Bloodthirster. Happy painting! Bye bye!